Welcome to Education Matters, presented by the Public School Forum of North Carolina. I'm your host, Dr. Mary Ann Wolf. On this special episode, we'll take a look at the final debate, which was hosted by the Forum, of the 2024 State Superintendent Candidates Green and Michele Morrow. We are grateful to Moore County Public Schools and the Moore County Board of Education for providing us with the opportunity to host the debate at Pinecrest High School. The debate was moderated by John Hood and Senator Leslie Winter, the co-chairs of the North Carolina Leadership Forum. We have often said that education is on the ballot this year, and we hope that you will take this opportunity to learn about this vital race for public schools in North Carolina.
Good evening. I'm Leslie Winter, and I'm going to start out by explaining to you the format that we're going to use that was agreed to by the candidates. First, we're going to start with each candidate given an opening statement, which we determined the order of by flipping a coin, and the first statement will be given by Michele. Then John and I will ask questions which we have written together, and in writing them, we took into account the questions that you and the audience submitted about things that what you are interested in. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer, and we'll alternate who goes first. And the person who went first will have 1 minute to respond. So there'll be about 5 minutes for each question. At the end, each candidate will have 3 minutes to give a closing statement.
We're delighted to see so many of you here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for those of you who submitted questions. Now, just to be clear, in addition to our live audience, many people will be watching this debate on television. In order to ensure fairness to them and to our candidates, we must ask that you not react with applause or any other interruptions during the debate itself. There will be an opportunity for you to express your support for your candidates at the end of the event. Now it's time for our opening statements, and we'll start with Michele.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate everyone who collaborated to make this event happen, and especially to you all who've taken time out of your busy days to come and to listen. It is very clear from the outpouring of interest how important this race is and how important education is to every person in North Carolina. It truly does not matter your race, your religion, or your politics. Every person in our state is concerned that our children are not getting the quality education that they need in order to be successful. I think everyone longs to return to the time when our schools were places of hope and opportunity, when teachers and parents worked together to ensure that every student excelled. We all want our young people to have the work ethic, the intellect, and the life skills to be successful, and I truly believe that we can make this a reality. That's why I'm running to be the next state superintendent of public instruction. I know the changes that North Carolina families want in education. I've spoken before countless school boards and legislative committees. I've been fighting to get boys out of girls' sports. I've been fighting to ensure that every child is getting a quality education. I want to ensure that no child leaves elementary school before they have mastered reading, writing, and math. It is not okay for us to be passing our children along year after year when they do not have the skills to be successful. I want to ensure that our schools become the safest buildings in the state. I do not believe that if our staff and our students feel unsafe, that learning is able to happen. And I also want to make sure that we break down the educational industrial complex where people have gotten wealthy and they've gotten powerful off of the failure of our students. So it is time to focus our money and our time on the students and ensure that the system is serving them, not the other way around.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone for coming out this evening. Thanks to the sponsor, Public School Forum, for hosting this conversation about public education. So I'll talk about 3 things this evening as we begin: experience, vision, and soul. Experience. The position of State Superintendent of Public Instruction is the Chief Administrative Officer for public schools for the state of North Carolina. It oversees 2,500 plus schools, 1.4 million students, a budget of $11 billion annually. Certainly my experience of having been the superintendent of Guilford County Schools for 7.5 years, along with having been the deputy superintendent and general counsel, prepare me well for this role. Number two, vision. The vision that I offer, if I'm elected as the next State Superintendent of Public Instruction, is one that we utilized when I was Superintendent of Guilford County Schools for 7.5 years. It is, to use a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education, and to combine it with a focus on excellence. That vision, along with the incredible work that was done by educators and parents and community and certainly our students, led us to a dramatic increase in graduation rates, at the same time improved student outcomes academically, and the district was recognized as a national district of character. And then finally, soul. The very soul of public education is on the ballot this November, and it is going to take champions of public education to meet this moment. We can look at everything from funding, for example, where we're spiraling downwards, now 48th in the entire country with regards to the funding that is provided to our public schools compared to the rest of the nation. And then we can also look at things like the level of respect or disrespect shown to our public school educators and the system itself. And so I do believe that this is an opportunity for us to elect someone who can, number one, be sure that we sustain and protect our public school system, but then go much further, execute on a bold vision going forward. Thanks much.
Several people in the audience have asked about teacher burnout and attrition. North Carolina school districts opened this year with over 3,000 teacher vacancies. In addition, our school districts hired over 5,000 teachers who were not fully licensed this year. This means that tens of thousands of students started the year in classrooms with either no permanent teacher or with a new unlicensed teacher. What would be your goal for closing that gap in the next 4 years, and what would you do to make that happen? Michele?
The first thing we need to ensure is that our teachers are supported and that they are safe. What I'm hearing as I've traveled across the state of North Carolina is our teachers feel like they have no support in the classroom. They are expected to be handling situations that really should be falling onto our administrators. I think it's interesting that we recognize that 20 years ago is about the time that my opponent ended up entering into the school system. And at that time, there was a 2 or 3 year wait list in many of our districts for teachers. So what has gone wrong? Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that what has gone wrong is there is no more character inside of our schools. We are not holding our children accountable. We are not holding our parents accountable, and there is a breakdown within our schools. It's time for us to ensure that every student is safe, that we bring back discipline and respect, that we bring back order, that we train up our teachers so that they have the skills and the tools they need to be able to manage a classroom. And when something becomes unmanageable, that our administrators are the ones that step in and handle that situation. I think you can agree with me. It is not fair for students in a classroom, 25, 24 students, to not get a quality education because just 1 or 2 is not able to behave. It's time for us to ensure that every student and every teacher is protected inside the classroom as well as out, and that's one of the reasons why I've put as the top priority that we're going to make our schools the safest buildings in the state. It's time for us to help our children to understand that they are responsible for themselves. They need to have consequences for actions. We need to teach them how to redirect themselves, and we need to prepare them to be critical thinkers and able to handle conflict resolution and able to be the adults in the room when they graduate.
Mo?
Great. So I will lift up 4 things. 1, compensation. 2nd, compensation-related things, certainly working conditions, and then leadership. So one of the primary reasons that we are losing teachers and not able to then recruit additional teachers is because the compensation level is too low. Let's be abundantly clear. North Carolina now finds itself spiraling towards the very bottom with overall funding for our school system, but it also then impacts what we are able to pay our teachers. So one of the things that I'll be advocating for is additional compensation for our educators. Secondly, compensation-related activities. So here, what I'll be advocating for is that we work with local communities to develop strategies that may be helpful to educators. For example, things like housing allowances for our teachers, things like child care allowances for our teachers. Third, working conditions. One of the things that the teacher working condition survey shows, for example, is that over 90+% of our teachers do find that where they work is a wonderful place to grow and learn, but there is certainly work that needs to be done there. We are putting far too much on each and every one of our teachers, to the point that it is becoming too much of a burden for them. So we've got to do things like figure out how to lower class size. We've got to figure out how to take some of those responsibilities that we call upon our teachers to do and give them to other folks as well. And then finally, leadership. Leadership matters. So here, we've got to be sure that we've got the kind of leaders leading our schools such that our educators will actually want to work there. I hear time and again that makes a tremendous difference in who shows up and wants to work for a particular school at a particular time.
Thank you. Michelle, do you want your 1 minute rebuttal?
Certainly. I absolutely believe that we need to pay our teachers more. And this is why we need to prioritize all spending to start actually in the classroom with student needs. My opponent likes to talk about fully funding the system. I want to fully fund the students and all of the teachers and the boots on the ground staff. And we need to break down all of the funneling of funds that is going into the bureaucracy. It's going into these administrative roles that do not have a direct impact on our students' academic performance, their character development, or their career preparedness. I want everyone to know too, 1,500 teachers last year were assaulted on the job. We don't have to ask ourselves, would you want to go to work every day if you're going to be disrespected, cursed at, threatened, and even attacked? We must get respect, discipline, and a code of conduct into every one of our schools, and we will draw back in all of the wonderful teachers, and they will be able to do their calling, which is actually teaching our children.
Thank you so much for joining us. We will continue the debate after the break. Welcome back. We will continue the opportunity for you to see some of the debate between Michele Morrow and Mo Green for North Carolina State Superintendent.
All right, our next question will be directed first to Mo. Legislative leaders and current Superintendent Catherine Truitt point to recent increases in early grade reading scores as evidence that the Science of Reading bill passed in 2021 is bearing fruit. Do you agree with this assessment? What more needs to be done to increase reading proficiency?
Great. So certainly I do agree with the early returns and do believe that this is a potential way forward for us in the entire state. So let me back up and be sure that folks understand the Science of Reading is a way of teaching early literacy skills. I actually served on a implementation team with Catherine Truitt that worked on this for North Carolina. We were working with 5 other states on how best to implement the early literacy skills. Now, what else needs to be done? We absolutely need to be sure that we are providing the level of professional development for each and every one of our teachers in the early grades so that they are equipped to provide this instruction to each of our students. We also, though, need to think about our middle schools. For example, we have lots of struggling readers that are now in our middle schools, and so these very same skills, I believe, need to be taught there as well. Now, what comes with this is a need, and you heard my opponent talk about fully funding. It requires resources, professional development opportunities for our teachers to get the kind of resources necessary to do this. When you compare us to the rest of the nation, nationally, $16,000 per pupil. Virginia is over $14,000 per pupil. South Carolina is over $15,000 per pupil. North Carolina is over $11,000 per pupil. This is a real significant difference when you're talking about 1.4 million students. We need to have that kind of increase in resources to provide the kind of services for our students, including professional development for our teachers, so that they can effectively implement the Science of Reading.
Michele?
I absolutely am thankful that we've gone back to the science of reading and phonics and not whole word instruction, because it's clear, even by what my opponent just shared, that we have middle schoolers that are not reading at a grade level above 3rd grade. And that is a travesty, and we are doing a horrible disservice to our students. I also believe that it's time for us to focus all of our professional training, even after people have graduated with an education degree, on practical skills of teaching literacy in math and in reading. The other thing that I would like to do is I think we need to be diagnosing things earlier on. I actually had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Conway down in Florida, who has a program called the Now Project, and he has been incredibly successful in helping to determine even children as young as 4. We know that dyslexia and dysgraphia and many of the other literacy issues that our children are facing actually have a genetic component, and he has a very easy test and an assessment that can be done even within the pediatrician's office. But I think it's very important that we as the DPI are offering those services. We can even put them into our central offices, so that during the summertime, our youngest students entering kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, we can know before they even enter into the classroom what their needs might be, so that we can equip the teachers. I also think we need to be working with those that are working at educating our teachers, so that they can be sure that everyone that graduates with an education degree is able to handle learning differences. They're able to handle our exceptional learners as well as our ESL students. It's time for us to understand that we are not getting fewer students that have these needs. We actually have increased students that are finding themselves with learning differences, and it is our job to make sure they get the services and be as successful as possible.
Very good. So I'd like to lift up 2 additional points, one of which I was building on before, which is funding. So a lot of the work that was done for us to implement the science of reading actually used federal dollars. Those dollars are in many ways going away, but this is the kind of thing that those federal dollars, if we can continue to get them, will make a huge benefit or difference for our students. Second, engagement of students. So one of the things that we absolutely must do, in addition to being sure that we teach those skills, is provide them with the kind of materials that will engage them. Students will perform better when they see themselves in the materials that's being presented to them.
Now we're going to turn to career readiness. And our question for you is, please explain what you see as the role of K-12 education in enabling students to thrive in North Carolina's workplace of the future. Michele?
It is our responsibility to ensure that every student is able to fulfill their potential and able to enter into the workforce, able to pursue a career that's going to make them not only financially independent, but is going to be able to be something that's rewarding to them and to give back to their community. I have had the absolute pleasure of traveling around the state and going to 5 different career and technical programs, and there are some wonderful things happening. I really believe, and I will be fighting to ensure that every junior and senior in North Carolina has the opportunity for an internship, a work-study program. I think that this would help to keep many of our young people in the classroom, and they will even understand what the importance is of all the things that they've been learning in their core classes. I truly believe that every student is born that is unique and has gifts and talents. And it really should be the school system's job to work with parents to uncover that purpose, to uncover that uniqueness, to uncover that passion. And I would like to see, by the time our students are in middle school, that we are encouraging them on a pathway of success. I want to increase the private and public partnerships that we have. We have a very diverse state. You can be anything that you want to be in North Carolina. And it's time for us to be working with those businesses in the different different districts so that they can be preparing the next workers that they're going to need, the next leaders that we're going to need. And I think that we know that the basis of economic performance and economic strength in any county is going to be the quality of education and the students that we are graduating. It is so important that our children graduate with hope and with purpose and with promise and with the skill set, the intellect, and the work ethic that they need in order to make sure that we stay safe and prosperous as free as a state.
Mo?
Thank you. So all along, you'll start to hear things that will suggest that there's one person who's actually walked the walk and a person who only can simply talk the talk. Let me give you an example. This is so critically important for us to know that, yes, we absolutely should be preparing our students for whatever they're going to do work-wise. And in my case, we actually created, for example, 2 STEM-related schools during my tenure: science, technology, engineering, and math. One that was focused on a need in Guilford County, which was for more nurses, and so our students could graduate with a certificate in certified nursing assistant, certification, if you will. Secondly, the school that we created at the STEM Early College at North Carolina A&T allowed our students to really explore lots of different areas in those disciplines. And the school has been recognized even this past year as the 2nd best high school in the state of North Carolina by the U.S. News and World Report. So absolutely we need to then also create more of these opportunities. We absolutely need to have more partnerships with our community to be sure that we are in fact providing the kind of services that our community needs and where they think they want to go with various industries, and that our students are well prepared to make that happen. So what we also did in Guilford County Schools is we said, not only do we want to increase the number of students who are taking career and technical education courses, we absolutely also want to increase the number of students who are taking and passing college-level courses while still in high school, so that they can make whatever decision they want to make when they graduate from high school.
Michelle, 1 minute.
You know, my opponent would have you believe that he is just now stepping out of the superintendent's role in Guilford County, but the fact of the matter is that was 8 years ago. And ladies and gentlemen, I think experience is only a positive when you've been successful. If you look at the standards right now and what's happening in Guilford County schools and Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, they have some of the lowest proficiency rates in math and reading across all demographics. They also are one of the most violent and crime-ridden systems in our state. It's important, experience, but I think one of my greatest qualifications is I have no experience in a failing system that chooses to continue to fund failures and only wants to get more money for those people at the top that are the bureaucrats like my opponent, who's gotten wealthy and powerful off the backs of our students and our teachers.
Thank you so much to each of you for joining us and for taking the time to learn about the candidates' plans for education, local public schools, and children across North Carolina. Thank you to John Hood and Senator Leslie Winter for your thoughtful facilitation of the debate. And thank you to Mo Green and Michele Morrow for providing the opportunity for us to learn more about you and your plans for North Carolina's local public schools and our children. Thank you for taking time with us to learn and think about education. That's all for today, and we'll see you next week.